Today we're going to do a virtual tour and I'm going to share you some information relating to one of the largest cities in the Americas that fits the time frame of the Book of Mormon. I think it is one of the largest Lamanite cities from the Book of Mormon. The archaeology fits, the descriptions fit. It's a well-documented archaeological site that fits the right time frame. And I want to share you some information about it, and we'll learn about the location. It's called Pinson Mounds, and it's located in the southwest Tennessee area. So first, let's share some basic information about the site. You can pull it up on Wikipedia. This is the Wikipedia site for the Pinson Mounds. As it says here, it's a prehistoric Native American complex. It includes a number of mounds. This says 17 mounds. At the site, it says up to 30 mounds. Among those mounds, there's a very large central mound, over 70 feet tall, called Saul's Mound. There's a picture there on the right for you. And it also has several rectangular platform mounds, a number of burial mounds, and other types of things. The Wikipedia site says that the site dates to from 1 to 500 AD, although it acknowledges later that most of the mounds appear to have been constructed between 100 and 300 AD, based upon the radiocarbon dating and the artifacts at the site. And then it goes through and describes a number of the mounds that are there. So let's take a quick look at where this is, turning to Google Earth. So it's located in this southwestern Tennessee area between Nashville and Memphis, just south of the town Jackson. And we can pull into the site. So as we pull into the site just south of Jackson, there's a river called the the Forked Duck River. I'll pull it up in just a second. South Forked Deer River, maybe. But it's a river that flows northwest and then joins the Mississippi River as it flows south. So pulling up the site, as you can see, it's a wooded area. And okay, it's the South Forked Deer River. And this whole area is the site. It's 400 acres in size, and then this river flows, as I said, up northwest, up towards the Mississippi River. Most of the main civilization areas, the villages, the cities that exist are along the various rivers, most of which are tributaries to the Mississippi River, whether it's tributaries to the Ohio, then the Mississippi, or directly to the Mississippi River. A good site with information about the Pinson Mounds archaeological site is in the Tennessee Encyclopedia page. There are a couple of professors, Mainford and Quass, and they do a good job in this particular article talking about the site. You'll notice that they give slightly different dates for the site. They say 200 BC to 400 AD. So the dates can vary depending on the archaeologist involved, but all of them fit the Book of Mormon time frame. So it very clearly was in the Book of Mormon time frame. And as I'll show you information about the site, you can see, and I think you'll agree with me, that it fits the descriptions of a large Lamanite city that matches the descriptions in the Book of Mormon. In this article, they talk about some of the artifacts and so forth that are in the site. Let me show you a picture of the site. Sorry, a map of the site. Now, this was done by a man named William E. Meyer in 1922. And when he was sent out by the Smithsonian to get information about the site, and he did a survey of the site and did a map. As he depicts in the site, it encompasses about 400 acres. Now, some of you will have seen my previous video that I did on the Poverty Point, Louisiana site, which I think could relate to the Book of Mormon. The Poverty Point, Louisiana site is also 400 acres in size. There's a question about the dating for that site. The radiocarbon dating points to an older date that would fit more like the Jaredite time frame. But there are cultural aspects to that site which match other Hopewell timeframe sites, which make me think that the Poverty Point site actually fits the Book of Mormon timeframes. And one of those similarities is the 400-acre size. Another one of the similarities is the 70-foot high tall central mound. And then another one of the similarities are some of the artifacts that are found at the site, which show a common culture and exchange, meaning that the Pinson Mounds and the Poverty Point site had to overlap in time frame. Okay, now in the map, it's depicted in three areas: a western area, an eastern area, and a central area. There's a large central mound, which again was called the Saul's Mound. It's just a little over 70 feet tall. And we'll see some pictures of that in a minute. And then there's also large mounds throughout the site. William Meyer described, so I should mention about, he depicts walls going all the way around the site. And there is some dispute about whether there were walls that go all the way around the site. When William Meyer went there in the like I said, 1922 map, when he went there in the early 1900s and he spoke with the old original farmers in the area and the settlers in the area, they affirmed and said that there were breastworks, a kind of a breastwork is earthwork or wood or whatever that gets up to, chest high kind of thing, type of thing you would use for a partial fortification or to demark the limits of the site. And that, as he wrote here, he felt that they were probably topped with palisades as well. Now, when archaeologists have since gone to try to verify or confirm that these walls go around it, they've only been able to find traces of the walls or breastworks going around. So, for example, up here, there were traces of breastworks that were still in existence, confirmed by settlers. And then what William Meyer did is, based off of that and the descriptions, he assumed or proposed that it went all the way around the site. So, as he says, probable line of palisades, probable palisade, and so forth. The other thing about his map that differs from the site is that, that as we see it now, is that he depicted this eastern area as having a wall all the way around it. Now, currently, there's only a semicircle there. And so there's a dispute and a question about whether this was kind of a wall that went all the way around it, or whether there was some other kind of use for the portion of the walls that are seen there. But nevertheless, what I think you can see from this site and the existence of some of the walls around it is that this was a large city. And anyway, so that's the best map we have of it. There's not any good map of it before that time frame, and any subsequent maps have less information. There is a very good YouTube video, which I recommend, and it's called Chasing History, a Forgotten Native American Story, the Pinson Mounds State Archaeological Park. It's at the Chasing History YouTube site. I recommend this one. What happens in the video is the main people tour the site. They talk with a park ranger that's there, and they go over things that are at the site and artifacts that are at the site. What I would like to do for our virtual tour, since you can't go there in person. Now, I have been to the site in person. It's a great site, and I recommend that you go if you have the chance. But this will give us a chance for a virtual tour of the site. And just at the beginning here, and I'm going to go ahead and make this bigger screen for you. Okay, so just at the beginning here, this is the Saul's Mound, the main central mound, and it's a good that it has the people there so you can kind of get an idea of the size of it. Now, this is not a hill. This is not natural at all. This was completely filled in with earth, and they've taken soil samples and things and verified that this was all man-made. And we'll talk about the size of that in just a second. But the first clip I'm going to show you just is about the dating of the site, and we'll go to the 338 point. And I'm just going to show short clips and then pause them and talk about them. I recommend the video in its entirety, but for our purposes, especially related to the Book of Mormon, there are some parts that are going to be of more interest than others. So I'm just going to play some short clips and then talk about each of those. So here's the first one.
Tons of artifacts that have been found here. There's not a whole lot of variety in those because this place was highly looted back in the early 80s and 70s, so we don't have a whole lot that's left for us to find on the mounds. But there's still a whole bunch of cool stuff that we find here, such as points that were used in atlatls and also spear points. We have gorgets that were found that were used as a decorative instrument, and we also have the clay cooking balls and other bone tools that we found here.
So this shows some of the typical artifacts they've found at the site. It's similar to a lot of other Native American sites in terms of the spearheads, arrowheads, and think the pottery, things like that. Some of the pottery had a distinctive stamping style, which is described elsewhere in this Chasing History video, but I won't go over that. And then also tools. There's some well-crafted tools, including copper and other things there as well. One of the things that's found at this Pinson Mound site are clay cooking balls, which are identical to clay cooking balls that were used at the Poverty Point site. And this is one of the additional cultural artifact similarities that makes me think that both this site at Pinson Mounds and the Poverty Point site are Book of Mormon timeframe sites, and I think we're the two largest Lamanite cities. They are the two largest confirmed ancient cities in North America. In the future videos, I'll talk a little bit more about a couple of sites that actually were even larger. And that one of those is in the Chillicothe, Ohio area, and another one is at the Benz Run, West Virginia area along the Ohio River. But these two sites are two of the largest sites. Okay, so then we're going to jump to the 5-minute mark, and here she's going to talk a little bit about the size of the Saul's Mound to give you an idea of just how big it was and how much labor it would take to build it.
With the erosion and stuff that's happened over time. So it's almost a 300 foot wide by 200 foot circumference on the bottom. So it's a very, very large footprint.
Wow.
Also, if you were to put all this dirt into dump trucks, if you had dump trucks back to back, bumper to bumper, it would be 27 miles of dump trucks.
That much dirt is here.
There's 8.2 million cubic feet of dirt in this mound.
That's insane.
So as she said, there's over 8 million cubic feet of dirt. It would take 27 miles of dump trucks, she says, to have enough dirt to build that. So what that does is it gives you an idea of the size and coordination of the populations at that time to build something like this central mound, which would have been sort of the center point of the city. I'm going to jump from this point to the 10-minute, 50-second mark. And here she's going to talk a little bit about how most of the Saul's Mound was sourced from a barrow area right near it. And so you can kind of tell where dirt was removed to help build up the mound. But some of the dirt was brought from much larger distance. Let me get that back to the right spot. There we go.
Their
Okay.
theories, and some of the evidence suggests that a lot of the dirt was also brought into the site.
So what evidence is out there that shows where dirt has been brought in from other places, even other states?
So just like some of the rocks and say copper from Canada that we can see, we know exactly where that copper came from. We can also do that with some types of dirt. Some types of dirt are very common. Some is only specific to one general region, so that's how we can see where they actually came from.
All right, and you've got dirt from, what's the furthest away that dirt's come from?
So right now, what we're guessing is that it was South Georgia.
You're kidding. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's far away too.
That's nuts.
Okay, so she indicates some of the soils in the mound are not local to that mound and come from as far away as potentially South Georgia. And so why would you do that much effort? I don't know. But one of the things that this shows related to the Book of Mormon again is how coordinated and widespread and expanded this culture and population was. It was not small. It was not just a little village. It was not it does not fit the typical assumptions that are made about the Native Americans in terms of them being hunter-gatherers, only, small villages, that kind of thing. The amount of effort and coordination that it would take to make a city site as big as this, 400 acres, 70-foot tall mound, over 8 million cubic feet, dirt brought in from faraway locations. We'll talk more in this video about the artifacts that are also brought throughout the eastern U.S. that come through this site and can be verified archaeologically, fit the Book of Mormon description of a large population with extensive trade and interaction. Okay, so now we're going to jump to one of the burial sites at the Pinson Mounds location, which had a number of important artifacts. And this will be at the 15-minute, just after that point. Here we'll go. It's called the Twin Mounds.
So cool.
One of the most striking features here at the site is behind us, the Twin Mounds. So there's a lot of very unique archaeology, incredible discoveries that were here at the Twin Mounds. What's the basic history? What do we know about it so far?
So this mound is a double conical mound, kind of two mounds put together. We actually found 6 tombs in it, 4 of which were open. There were several different artifacts that came out of those tombs, and even our special knee rattles that we talk about a whole lot and actually have as a lot of iconography here at the mounds. Actually,
we're going to jump a little bit to where she talks, shows us the artifacts, and this is inside their museum there. It's about to this point, maybe.
yes.
So this is probably one of the coolest displays that we have throughout the entire museum. Tell us what we have going on here.
So this is some of the burial goods and replicas that we actually got out of Twins Mound, which was a conical mound of 2 mounds put together. One of the mounds were excavated, the northern twin was, and we actually found some of the stuff in it. We had one tomb that had some females in it, and they were gorgeous, ornate stuff. Beads that were envy the pearls that we see today are actually our freshwater pearls that we have native to Tennessee. And they actually had a whole bunch. One of the ladies actually had 5 strands of them on her.
Wow.
Another thing cool is the Marginella beads from the Gulf Coast. They were almost as the white as the pearls, and they were just ornate around their ankles. It's like anklets that we wear today. In the men's tombs, we actually found some really cool stuff. We actually found a boat stone, a schist pendant, which was very large for that time, and a mica mirror.
So did you?
So just commenting on a couple of things she said there. So at this particular site, one of the interesting things culturally was that they had a separate tomb for women, a separate tomb for men in that particular burial mound. Now, this is different than most of the burial sites, the burial mounds that are found throughout the eastern U.S. Most of those instead have either family or group of people buried together. It's not separated or segregated by sex. So that's a different thing about that mound. Another thing culturally she mentioned there was the use of beads around the neck and ankles. So necklaces and ankle bracelets as something that would be as something that they would wear. also the existence of a mica mirror. There's been another, mica mirrors have been found at a couple of different Hopewell type sites. In a previous video, I mentioned a mica mirror, for example, that was found at in a Hopewell mound in Circleville, Ohio. And then what you have here with a pendant and boatstone are examples of a high level of craftsmanship. So this was not just crude crafts. There was, in parts, high level craftsmanship for some of the artifacts. Another thing that she said is found in this mound were a couple of rattles, and they have interesting designs on them. I'll go ahead and stop where you can see the designs a little bit. I think put it up here. Okay, and so these were small rattles that were worn around the knee and have interesting design on one, an interesting design on the other one. On the design over here, she talks about the potential theories of what the designs are. She presents the theory that this may be a diagram of the site, the Pinson Mounds site, presented in a manner here because the site had a causeway that goes up to the central mound. That Saul's mound that we showed, you can't really tell. It looks just like a big mound, but it actually has four edges to it. So it's a little bit shaped more like a pyramid at the bottom, where it has four corners at the bottom that fit the cardinal directions: north, south, east, west. So it was a large central mound with 4 points that fit the north, south, east, and west. And then there are also rectangular platform mounds elsewhere on the site. So she presents this could be a form of representation of the site. Okay, I'm only going to show a couple more brief clips. So we're going to talk now a little bit about some of the sourcing and long-range distances that some of the things found at the site came from far away. So we're going to jump to the 32-minute, 32:55, I think was where I was going to go. Again, I recommend the entirety of the video, but we'll just do some brief parts here.
One of the really cool, fascinating things is how far stuff has traveled to this site. And in the
pause just a second again. So anytime you get information like this, there's a bit of secondary information that comes as well. So what this particular diagram shows is the Pinson Mounds area and how things that are found at the site have been sourced from far away, from different places. The secondary information that this provides you is it gives you a little bit of an idea of the extent of the Hopewell culture, or what I think is the Nephite Lamanite civilization, the extent and reach of their civilization and population. And what it shows is that they were throughout the eastern United States, up into Canada, and then also sourced at the very least source materials all the way out to the Rocky Mountains. There's some indication that there's other reach. There's also some in later sites, not particularly at this site, of trade with Mesoamerica as well. But anyway, so this kind of gives you an idea of the reach of the Nephite Lamanite civilization.
In the museum, you've got a real nice map. Show us where things that have been found here, where they traveled from.
So we have a whole bunch of stuff that's traveled all over the country just to get to this site. One of the cool things is, of course, mica. We have some natural deposits in Tennessee, but we didn't know about them until we started mining. They were not ground level where Native Americans could get to them. So they had to travel actually from West Virginia and a little bit south of that to come over here. Another thing that's really neat is copper. So copper was actually used on the headdresses in some of our burials and used as earpieces in some of them. That had to travel all the way from Canada. So it had to come across the Great Lakes or around the Great Lakes to get down here.
Pause right there. So actually, this copper that she's pointing to from Canada is actually, it is found in Canada, but it's also found in Michigan. So in this Upper Peninsula area of Michigan, between Lake Michigan and Lake Superior, especially on the south shore of Lake Superior, and then also on islands in Lake Superior and above, are where you get these very large copper sources of naturally occurring copper that they can match the copper to. So she says that it's from Canada above the Great Lakes, but it could also equally have come from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan down.
That is fascinating. So you've got copper here
Yeah.
that has that you know for a fact this copper was from the Great Lakes region that traveled all the way down to this site.
The reason we know it specifically came from that is because that's the only ground level ore that you can get around here on this side of the country.
Okay.
Just same way with the obsidian that we have here. It had to cross the Rocky Mountains and the Mississippi River to get over here.
That's crazy that you guys have obsidian that has been brought all the way to this site. What other kind of materials do you
Stop just a little bit on obsidian. Obsidian was important because it could be made extremely sharp, and it was used by the Native Americans in the eastern U.S., Hopewell, both in the north and in the south. And then it was also used in Mesoamerica for blades, which could be used for weapons and for tools. So it was sourced from that Yellowstone type area, that volcanic region there. And like I said, could be made extremely sharp. And then some of that is found at the Pinson site.
have?
So of course we got some quartz.
Just note also, I should say, in a prior video, I talked about some evidence for iron swords in the Circleville, Ohio area in particular in the late, around 1818, maybe 1820. There was a man named Caleb Atwater who was one of the first to explore the Hopewell Mounds in that Ohio area. And when he excavated one of the mounds in that south central Ohio area, he describes finding a disintegrated sword, a disintegrated small sword or large, or it could have been large knife. He said you could, it had disintegrated, but you could still see the iron oxide in the shape of the small sword or knife. So also in that video that I did, and it was on the iron, evidence for iron usage, all of those evidences for the iron smelting, the pit furnaces, and the iron items that have been found are found more in the northern area like Ohio. So my personal interpretation is that the Nephites retained and maintained the ability to make metal, and they did continue to make metal weapons, although it's clear they also used flint and obsidian blades and tools, just like the other Native Americans used. In the southern United States, I haven't seen any evidence of the iron use. So the indication is, as I interpret it, Lamanite areas did not retain the ability to make iron weapons. The Nephites did, but that's just my personal interpretation.
Crystal, those things are gorgeous and anything. And we actually have some beads and stuff that are made and pieces
Really?
of jewelry that are made from that.
Wow.
Another thing is the Marginella beads from the Gulf Coast down in Georgia and Alabama that traveled all the way up here. One of the ladies that was in the tombs actually had 5 strands of freshwater pearls
Wow.
on her when she was buried. So that's a lot of pearls. The
Yeah.
freshwater pearls don't get near as big as the ocean pearls.
Yeah.
They're a lot harder to find.
So you've got literally stuff from just
Just going to pause here so you can see some of the range of places these came from. What I'll do is I'll
Is the
run
ocean
through.
pearls.
Yeah.
They're a lot harder to find.
so you've got literally stuff from just
You see Northern Illinois, Appalachian Mountains,
about nearly
Appalachian
the
Mountains,
entirety of the United States
the Great
kind
Lakes
of coming
area,
to
the
this
Gulf of
site.
Mexico
Yes.
area.
During
different
this
locations in the
period, is
Appalachian
there
Mountains,
any other,
Alabama,
during this specific period, is there
Ohio,
any other
Kentucky,
kind of sites
St. Louis,
that are major?
etc. So again, all of these things show the extent of the cultural reach in sourcing of materials and interaction and trade that happened. Okay, and then the last clip I'll show from here is at the 38 42 mark. Okay, should be there is good.
The cool thing about Osier is that if you can look, you can still see that ramp that they used to get up and down the mound.
One of the differences that's found between the Native Americans that lived in the eastern U.S. at the time of the Book of Mormon and the Mesoamericans that were where there's evidence for them is that in Mesoamerica, those pyramids, those big square-topped stone pyramids, they all have steps. Now, in the Bible, in the Temple of Solomon was an elevated rectangular area. In the eastern U.S., you have elevated rectangular platform mounds, which may have some similarities to that where the Temple of Solomon was. Now, with the Temple of Solomon in the Old Testament, it describes that for at least parts of the area that they had ramps instead of stairs for where the priests would ascend. In the eastern United States, for most of the mounds, there are ramps instead of any kind of stairs. And this particular mound, as she's going to describe, has a ramp. And there was also a path to the ramp from a hearth where potentially there could have been sacrifices in accordance with the law of Moses or something like that. But she'll describe that.
We suggest that that means that it was highly used,
Mhm.
and we've even got evidence of it being used for about 1,000 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you were telling us on the way up here about a hearth that was found that was located not too far from it. How does that tie in with this feature?
So we actually have discovered a hearth in 2019. It's one of our earlier discoveries that is kind of new. And it has a walkway or pathway, some kind of path to the base, the central base of this
Of
Osier
this
mound.
mound.
Mhm.
That is so
Yeah.
cool. You know,
We can go ahead and stop there. Okay, like I said, it's a good video to learn about the Pinson Mound site. Okay, summing up, I do think that the Pinson Mound site is one of the largest Lamanite cities that fits the Book of Mormon. I think it and the Poverty Point site are the two largest Lamanite cities that we know of, or that I think can tie to the Book of Mormon. There are other large sites in the southern U.S., including like at Moundville, Alabama. That dates later. There are some large sites in Georgia. Those date later than the Book of Mormon. Cahokia, which is an extremely large site along the Mississippi River uh, near St. Louis, that dates later. So, in terms of looking for the sites that fit the Book of Mormon time frame, the Pinson Mounds and the Poverty Point are the two largest cities that fit the Book of Mormon. Now, in future videos, I'll talk about the Chillicothe, Ohio area, which I think is even a larger Nephite site. I've already talked about the Fort Ancient, Ohio site near Cincinnati, which I think was a large Nephite walled city. And I'll share some other sites too with you. But anyway, if you like the video, I hope you'll like and subscribe. And if you have comments or thoughts or additional information, I'd love to see it and have you share that with me. Thanks.